Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features Ghost Rider Volume 3, cover dated May 1990, issue number 1, fantastic first issue as it says in the corner box, and the cover caption, A Spirit Reborn. So this is the new Ghost Rider, an updating of the 1970s Ghost Rider, but an entirely different character as it will turn out, with a different human host from the 1970s one, which was Johnny Blaze, a stunt motorcyclist. And here instead we've got a new human host, Danny Ketch from Brooklyn. And this is a really nice cover. I like the design of the black border, which draws our attention very much to the focal point of this cover image, which is this amazing bike designed by Javier Saltares. So the cover image, penciled and inked by Saltares. It's got a 1989 date on it. A lot of work went into this double-sized issue. There's 44 pages of story and 2 front pages as well. So a lot of work went into the creation of this first issue. There's no advertisements in the course of the story as well. A fantastic idea, really. Yes, it's twice the price of a comic in 1990, like a regular comic, but really, really well thought out, very satisfying first issue. And of course, kicked off a wild period of popularity for the character that lasted 2 to 3 years. From 1990 to 92, 93. Okay, let's open this. By the way, one last thing I'll say before opening it up is I'm pretty certain that the cover colorist here is our interior colorist, Greg Wright, who also really brings something important to the creative table. So here we go. We have a front page here that basically gives us the basics on the character. When innocent blood is spilled, a spirit of vengeance is born, and Danny Ketch finds himself transformed into the Ghost Rider. And the title of the first chapter of this ongoing story is Life's Blood. And the creative team here, writer Howard Mackie, and this is definitely one of his best works. Penciler Javier Saltares, inker Mark Texeira, letterer Michael Heisler, and colorist Gregory Wright. So Heisler would be replaced in due course by Janice Chang, but he's the letterer that kicks off the first issues of the title. And a nice 3/4 profile close-up on the Ghost Rider's face here. That animated skull, the flames of hellfire around it. What a great design. And a little use of screen tone there as well in the background. A really, really well designed, eye-catching front page here. Then let's move along, and this is an intriguing choice where we've got an all black page with a couple of epigraphs on it. And the first one, Revenge Proves Its Own Executioner by John Ford. Well, this is an early 17th century playwright, and the particular play in question that this quotation comes from is one called The Broken Heart, which was written, scholars conjecture, between 1625 and 1633 when it was first published. A very gloomy, dark play set in ancient Greece. But what a great quotation, Revenge proves its own executioner, when this version of the Ghost Rider is the personified demonic spirit of vengeance. Really appropriate quotation. And then we get a quotation from the Ghost Rider himself, which is kind of funny. I'm the spirit of vengeance. Nothing will stop me from inflicting pain on all those who've inflicted it on innocent beings. So that's his mission statement. That's who he is and what he does. So the story then opens properly here. As I said, we get 44 pages of story, no advertisements. What a great choice. Whoever came up with that idea, really well done, because you just get so absorbed in this story. It really deserved not being interrupted by advertisements. It opens Cypress Hill Cemetery. So that's in Brooklyn. For decades, this graveyard has served as the final resting place for the bodies of departed souls. Here, the spirits of the dead have found comfort and peace. Tonight, one spirit will be reborn in fire and blood. That's great phrasing. Tonight, no peace will come to the Ghost Rider, Spirit of Vengeance. And I love the way that we have this image of him hovering here over the scene of Danny Ketch and his older sister Barbara going through the cemetery. It's such a great choice. Use of screen tone there as well. And Gregory Wright's colours so evocative of this dark, ominous, nighttime scene and mood. Those cool blues. Really, really well chosen. And of course with the different colours there, the flesh colour and the brown for Danny Ketch's hair and the orange for his sister, our eyes are drawn to them in the middle of the scene. So Danny has an interesting character. You know, he's not a hero to begin with. He's very passive and also, I would say, a bit of an introvert, really. And he's kind of enthralled to his older sister, Barb. I'm dead if Mom finds out that I brought you in here tonight. And she says to him, chill out, Dan. I'm not going to tell her. Anyway, some maniac will probably disembowel us long before Mom can ground us. So she's got a kind of like a dark sense of humor. But Danny's much more serious. Don't even kid around like that. You know the reputation this place has. Murders, child abductions, and weird religious cults that have sacrificed dogs, cats, and who knows what else in here. So we're really getting the scene set. You've been reading too much Stephen King, little brother, she says to him. And that's kind of that's like the story subtext or almost source material in a very, very loose sense. This really has the feel of a Stephen King novel oriented to like teenage readers. Something like that is going on here. So the little reference kind of reveals something about the style and content of this first issue of the new Ghost Riders adventures. So here we go. Barb continuing there. Why are they in the graveyard anyway? You promised you'd take me to see Houdini's gravesite on Halloween Eve, and you're not backing out. So again, the proper night for such an adventure to take place. I want to get some pictures of those alleged psychics trying to make contact with them on the other side. Relax. Let's just have some fun. Monsters aren't waiting for us around every corner. And that will prove, or that is dramatically ironic in terms of what happens later. But Danny has a bad feeling, he says, about this place. It was just last Halloween that those 5 kids from Ridgewood disappeared. And just get a look at the design of Danny's face there. He very much looks like Peter Parker. He looks like a version or a type of Peter Parker. And my thinking about Danny Ketch and the Ghost Rider in this particular third series of the title is Danny Ketch is like Peter Parker, but with one major important difference, which is what always set Peter Parker apart was he's a science genius. He's not an everyman, whereas Danny Ketch really is the everyman hero because there's nothing special about him whatsoever. He really starts from nowhere. And his being chosen as the vessel, the human host for the Spirit of Vengeance, brings out another dimension of his character over the course of subsequent issues. So anyway, we have the Cypress Pools gang here, Cypress Pool Jokers. So they pop out from behind these grave markers, give Danny and his sister a bit of a fright, especially Danny. You can see him like jumping back with alarm. His sister is more clued into what's going on. They're just kids. So the guy pulls off his Halloween mask, a devil mask. And this one here, Paulie, we'll learn her name is, tries to grab the satchel that Danny's carrying. And he's not able to deal with that. But his sister does. She's got a stick and she kicks Paulie here in the butt as well. Because what's in the bag except for the camera? And it is the camera bag for Barb's equipment. So the Cypress Pool Jokers run away. It's all kind of a bit of fun. And Barbara says, let's get to the grave site. My bodyguard. She's ironic before Houdini really does come back to life. And Danny here, apologetic. Barb, I'm sorry, I wasn't more help. Next time. So What happens a few minutes later? They hear a shot ring out and a scream, and they go to investigate. And they climb up this hill that is just beside Gallagher's junkyard, and that's important scene setting as well, for the location of the bike that will be the Ghost Rider's bike. And then at the top of this ridge, they get a view down to what's happening and the origin of the shot and the scream. And the Cypress Pool Joker's attention was grabbed as well, and they're watching too. And Barb says something pretty ugly is about to happen. So now our focus is switched to the aftermath of that shooting. We see this guy's had his head shot. And we've got one guy here in costume and these criminals here one of them holding a suitcase. Back off, you costume clown. This guy says, this here belongs to the Kingpin, so we're going to have to burn you for killing his courier. No offense. That's a nice bit of humorous dialogue at the end there. And now, here we go. This guy's no joker at all, costume or otherwise. Snaps his fingers, says, none taken. And the guy says, glad to see you ain't going to put up a fight. We do have you outnumbered 4-1. Just stand still and we'll do you as quick and painless as possible. But who are these in the shadows? Well, they turn out to be a bunch of ninjas. We'll see them shortly. They're currently just in deep silhouette. And this guy introduces himself, takes off the mask. I'm Death Watch, he says. I'm your death. And he doesn't look quite human. A little colouring error there in Greg Wright's colouring. Death Watch does have his bottom set of teeth indicated, but he's coloured it in. And so we have the sense that his mouth is open, but it's not. It's actually gritted. In any case, that's only a minor detail. So Barb here horrified, and she yells out as the guy's neck is cracked and obviously killed. So Death Watch sees her and he instructs the ninjas to shoot and kill her, and an arrow goes right through her chest and out her back. And that's a great panel to panel sequence there as she's shot right through and falls here. And you can just see Danny's horrified reaction. You can see it here, but then on his face. And he goes after his sister. This is great storytelling as well, where she falls down the hill into this pool of water at the bottom of the hill, and he's rushing down to aid her. So things have gone deeply wrong. And remember, it's Danny who promised to take her to Houdini's grave, so he's going to feel guilty over that. And that's another analogy to Spider-Man as well. Something going badly wrong and then the guilt attached to it. So this is a great page here where the Cypress Pool Jokers decide to get out of there as well. But Paulie here, she's a little bit braver than the others, and she goes after the suitcase. She thinks it's full of drugs, or better yet, money. So she grabs it. Death Watch sends the ninjas after her. This is a great shot of this ninja just kind of leaping off the side of the bonnet of this wrecked car. Death Watch putting his mask on, and here we have a great panel of everything in silhouette as the ninja goes after Paulie. And now here we are in Gallagher's junkyard, and Danny's taking his sister to a place of safety to hide out because he says he knows the place like the back of his hand. We'll hide under here until they leave, then I'll get you to the hospital, he says. She's losing blood, and as he falls to the ground, he sees something glowing in the dark. Eyes. No more, go away. So he's angry now, but also frightened. The blood trail ends here, says the ninjas. They could be hiding anywhere in all this wreckage. We don't have all night before the authorities appear. So one of them calls out to him. Again, I like the body language in silhouette. You can see him just kind of amplifying his voice with his hand held up beside his mouth. My friend, we want to help you. We want to help you and the girl. It was all a terrible mistake. Come out and let us take her to a doctor. Danny's not going to fall for that. But he says to his sister, don't worry, Barb, I'll protect you. They won't hurt you anymore. And then he sees this. This is really cool. Scene setting and evoking of mood as well. Lights in the dark, still glowing. More things to hurt us? No. And then he sees the motorcycle. So new it shouldn't be here. Not with all this junk. Can't think about that now. Have to try and stop the bleeding. So much blood all over me. So he props her up against the motorcycle, all over everything. Great lighting here as well. More use of the screen tone by Mark Texeira with the inks. And then the ninjas grab Paulie. A couple of them grab her. They decide they have no more time to waste looking for Danny and the injured girl. So they're going to throw some termite grenades to blow up the whole location. And one of them says aloud to Danny, "This is it, friend. Your last chance. Come out. Let us help you." Danny's not going to be fooled by that. "Everything's going to be okay, Barb," he says to his sister. "I won't let them hurt you anymore. I'm going to make the bleeding stop, but there's too much blood. So hot and sticky on my hands. I'd do anything to save her." It's almost like making a bargain, isn't it? The language. "I'd do anything to save her." The hubcap is glowing, and he puts his hand over the gas cap or hubcap here. And this is a great panel. I've always been struck by how good this panel is. The inking here, the use of the screen tone, it gives the effect of the light coming right through the back of his hand. You'll probably be able to see that best in high definition. And then the moment of transformation. So you can see the power coursing from the gas cap into Danny's body, coming out of his eyes there as well. It's really, really well imagined by Saltares. So the ninjas hear the scream and they think the girl must have died. Use the termite grenade now, leave no evidence. But then they hear the ground shaking and a glow emerging from the pile of wreckage, wrecked cars and such. "Who is it?" they ask. And here we go. This is a hell of a page turn. And again, this must be part of the reason for not having the advertisements in here. The artists are able, I reckon, or have the knowledge of that in advance, so they know the page turns for the big reveals. So let's turn the page here. Boom. Full page image of the Ghost Rider, our first one within the story, and such another cool shot of the bike as well. That bike always fascinated me in terms of its design. It looks so intricate, but I had a go at drawing it last year, and I figured out how to break it down. It basically breaks down into 3 parts of the body. Here, the midsection that he sits on and the back of it, obviously the flaming wheels, and then the front piece here, which is it'll be revealed to be in upcoming issues a battering ram. So really 3 parts to the bike only, but it looks so intricate and so impossible to draw when you're looking at this like when you're 13 years old. But there's a way of breaking it down, breaking the machine down, and then you can do all kinds of cool things with it. But it's a fantastic design, so much better than the thing that 1970s Ghost Rider was cycling, so much cooler. And this is a great shot as well. Look at the speed lines here, the motion lines, the composition of the image, and also the bursting out of the yellow and orange of Ghost Rider's Hellfire as well, contrasted with the red of the costumes of the ninja. So the Ghost Rider is lighting up the night in the junkyard. And also look at Greg Wright here doing rim lighting on the ninjas and on Paulie as well, coming off of the Ghost Rider's Hellfire. Such a great image. Excellent. And then he puts Barb down. The ninjas basically kill them is their response. Kill them all. And this is great from the Ghost Rider. So he's introduced himself there. That's very courteous of him. "I'm Ghost Rider, the spirit of vengeance." And then the way that Mackie writes him is so good, because he's not a chatty guy at all. And this is obviously the opposite of someone like Spider-Man. If there's that analogy there between Danny Ketch and Peter Parker, the Ghost Rider is a very different character in terms of his dialogue style from Spider-Man. He is laconic, he's sparse in his statements, and they're all imperatives or basic statements of fact. There's no baroque flowery language he uses. Everything is plain English, direct and to the point. And so he says of the girl here, Paulie, "Release her or die." And that's our image from the inside cover there as well. So they blew that up for the inside cover. Very clever stuff. And the ninja here, that's a great panel as well. Great perspective there. Says to him, "You'll die first, freak." And then we just have this open border panel, just the sound effect from Michael Heisler and the aftermath of Ghost Rider punching him back onto the ground. Really, really well done. Ghost Rider simply says, "No more innocents will be harmed here today." So let's continue. So now we're going to have a display of what the Ghost Rider can do. And so here we go. Like these chains, they're not just ornamental on his leather jacket, they're functional. So he pulls it out and he manages to break the ninja's sword and also crack him in the jaw as well. And then he uses the chain to get him around the neck and pull him in for, we don't learn what this is until subsequent issues, but it's the penance stare. And so he says to him, "You must suffer for the pain you've sought to inflict, the pain felt by thousands of innocent beings." So he subjects the ninja to the penance stare, and you can see his skull reflected in the pupil of the ninja's eye. But then the authorities, the cops arrive. Paulie makes her escape there with the suitcase, and Ghost Rider is just standing motionless while the police officers tell him to freeze right there. But Ghost Rider, as he replaces his chain, he's not going to fight them. He says the girl needs medical attention. So also we've got there the spotlight from the cops on Barb. She's still got that arrow sticking out of her chest. And the cops come over. "We'll give her all the attention she needs after we cuff you." But Ghost Rider's just walking away, and he shoves the cops off him. One of them breaks his nightstick over Ghost Rider's wrist. One of the cops pulls a handgun on him, and he says, "Cute dirtbag. One more move like that and I'll splatter you and that freaky mask of yours all over the ground. You're coming in with us, one way or the other." So the guy, disbelieving that this could be a supernatural being with a flaming skull, thinks it's a Halloween mask of some description. And so we just get these matter-of-fact motions from the Ghost Rider. He knocks the handgun out of the cop's hand, picks him up, and throws him into the other cops. Really, really well done storytelling, and also showing us what the Ghost Rider can do in terms of his superhuman strength. This is a great panel as well, where we get this reverse angle on the motorcycle as he's back on board and obviously revving the machine up. So the cops start firing at him and the bullets just fly off the bike. So the bike itself not susceptible to damage, basically invulnerable. What a great panel as well, and just bleeding off the page too. And Ghost Rider, he's got something to say. "The innocent blood spilled here tonight must be avenged. It's my solemn duty. I cannot be stopped." Picks up the side of the police car, lifts it off the ground, and flips it over on top of another one. "I will not be stopped." Great, great storytelling here in the art by Saltares. Another fantastic panel as he speeds away on the bike. Great angle here as well, Dutch angle on that. And the speed lines too. "Do not try to follow me," he says. And then we see the amazed look on this cop's face. That's really well done too. Also the lighting in Gregory Wright's art, or colouring I mean. So the cop nonplussed. What was that thing? This was supposed to be a routine public disturbance and trespassing call. So they call for an ambulance, and they're going to look around to see how many more bodies that freak left behind. So the Ghost Rider is going to get the blame for the dead bodies in the cemetery. And now, a few minutes later, he's out riding the streets and avenues of Brooklyn. So the cops are after him. They use their loudhailer to tell him to pull over. And this is a great little sequence here. So we're still learning what he can do with the bike. And I like the way that he clicks the pedal into a different mode. So it clicks back, and then he's able to hunch forward over. He's going into like a speed mode, and he just accelerates away from the cop car. They don't believe it. Me neither, but 2 units have him boxed off at the end of the block. We can see that as he's coming up towards those 2 cop cars, and he goes right over the top of it, smashing the lights on top as well. So unstoppable is the Ghost Rider, breaking the panel border as well. So he's going through a tunnel here too, cop cars after him. I really like the way that Saltares and Texeira have rendered the lights on the cop cars just with these circles. It really does give the effect of the lights. And here too, with the flashing lights on top of the cop cars as well. Here, really nicely done. So now he's making his way straight to another roadblock, and down comes, oh yeah, so it's also in this issue we learn what this frontispiece is. Like, obviously it's in the image of a skull, but it pops down and he can use it as a battering ram. So he says, I can let nothing stop me from finding those who've spilled the blood of the innocent. Nothing. So the Ghost Rider, just adamant and unstoppable spirit of vengeance, and also well established and looking so amazing in the art. Really cool stuff. So we're still not finished learning what he can do on that motorbike. So a couple of other cop cars after him, they think they've got him cornered because he's heading down a dead-end street. But what does he do? He starts riding up the wall. So he's able to ride vertically on that particular mystical motorbike. And there we go. That's like the end of Act 1 of the first issue. So we have our protagonist. Is he a hero, anti-hero, introduced in this first issue? We get to see what the elements of his costume design can do with the chains. Also, they can do something else that will come up a little later on as well. And we get to see the bike in action too. So very cool. Such a great introduction of this new iteration of the Ghost Rider. Later that night, outside Salem Fields, we've got a shot of it, the entrance. The Ghost Rider has made his way back in, and he says here in monologue, innocent blood has been spilled tonight, awakening me from my long sleep. Vengeance must be delivered. Vengeance by my hands. Vengeance by my hands. And then there's a transformation back to Danny, human Danny. And he's confused. What's happened? What have I done? So he doesn't have in the beginning full memories of the things he does when he's transformed into the Ghost Rider. Meanwhile, the bike transforms into a normal machine as well. And now we're into more or less the second act of this first story, Wall Street. So we've got the World Trade Center, the Twin Towers in the background there, and we're in Death Watch's office. So Death Watch is a Wall Street businessman, but he's also something else. Is he a mutant? Is he a vampire? What is he? He's some kind of monster. So the ninja that failed him the night before, he uses his powers on in order to find out exactly what happened. So we get the explanation here in the narrative captions. With the skill of a psychic surgeon, Death Watch penetrates the assassin's skull with his fingers. Recent memories are absorbed, memories of violence and pain. Great colours here by Greg Wright as well, and great collage of images summing up what happened the night before as well. And obviously this is the experience here at the end of the penance stare, and that hurts Death Watch. So he breaks contact, says to his flunky, you failed me, and you know the penalty for failure. But I like this, the guy has some spirit, so he pulls a gun and he says, no, I'm not playing any more of your sick games, I'll kill you first. But Death Watch moves too quickly, grabs the gun, grabs the guy by the throat, and breaks his neck. So that's how he likes to kill people, breaks their neck. And there's some macabre dialogue here as well. He says, nice of you to volunteer your life so that your friends can continue living. Thank Carl, gentlemen. And they just say there as they watch, thanks Carl. I always liked that scene. And the guy says here, close up, 3/4 profile close up on his eyes. And whatever it is that's up with his eyes, that kind of like bloodshot look. Find the girl with the suitcase. I want it and its contents in my hands before that fat, petty thug, this is the Kingpin he's talking about, has a chance to recover it. Do not fail me again. Turn the page. It's the Kingpin. So the Kingpin's building in Midtown Manhattan. And just as Frank Miller established with the Kingpin, like the Frank Miller iteration of the Kingpin going back to Daredevil, Frank Miller's original run on Daredevil, is not a joke. He is, even though he looks fat, he's all muscle, and he keeps what do I want to say? He keeps his fighting skills honed by having these regular training sessions where there's no holds barred. So these guys, these martial artists, are attacking him en masse. One of them manages to cut him across the belly, and this is a really interesting characterization of the Kingpin here. Just silent here. He doesn't utter a word as he's cut across the belly with the sword, and he just simply puts his hand to the cut, to the blood, and puts it to his lips. Finish me, he says. He's got a smile on his face. So the guy comes at him with his sword raised, and Kingpin just catches the end of the blade and smashes it with his hands. How strong has he got to be? And flings the guy against the wall, but he doesn't kill any of them. And then his assistant comes in with some bad news. And I like this panel, I like the design here, where the assistant looks really kind of unhappy to be delivering bad news, with his arms right by his side. And he looks like a little boy, and he looks nervous. And he says, the delivery we were expecting this evening has been waylaid. One of our couriers was able to pass on some information regarding the theft. I have our people searching for it even as we speak. And the Kingpin says here, as he towels off from the workout, the contents of that suitcase pose a great danger to our organization. It must not fall into the wrong hands. Bring me that suitcase and the names of the people who dare interfere with one of my operations. So the Kingpin, no one to be trifled with. We never do learn what's in the suitcase. It's a MacGuffin. So Salem Fields again, and it's nighttime once more the next day. Paulie here with the suitcase, hoping that she's not followed, and she makes her way into one of the tombs, above ground tombs, and her gang is there waiting for her. And so they open the suitcase, and inside they find not drugs, not money, but canisters. So Ralphie here says, looks like you almost got yourself killed for 3 cans of deodorant or something. So she's aghast at the whole business. And interesting here, the inking, Texeira's inking, it's very rough and ragged, but effective. He's more interested in conveying the emotion in the inks than in being anatomically perfect. And I like it. I like the aesthetic. So she's wondering what everything, like what it all was about, and that these things must be valuable. She says there's got to be something more about them. Well, it ain't anything we can use, says one of the gang, so we better get rid of them before those guys from the cemetery come looking for them. So she says here with this smile on her face, and let's make sure we put them where they'll never find them. Okay, so they're going to hide them. And now, this is a great page as well. Interesting idea here for our point of view. It's Danny Ketch's point of view. So he's arriving into the hospital. He's got blood all over his hands, but it's his sister's. And here he is arriving in. His girlfriend here sees him. His girlfriend Stacy. Her father, Captain Dolan. He's a captain in the police. And Danny's passing out. He's about to pass out there. And so somebody calls for a doctor to get a doctor quick. And that's his mother there as well. So really nicely done. And I like the colouring choice too by Greg Wright, where he goes to grey as Danny's about to pass out. And then the next day, St. John's Hospital. So the family and friends around Danny tell him that he gave them a scare, but he's not too much worse for wear, and he doesn't remember too much, and he really doesn't. So Captain Dolan is asking him he's going to have to remember. His mother's delighted that he's okay, and then the doctor arrives in. saying that Danny wants to see his sister. Doctor says she's still in serious condition, but I suppose you can see her for 5 minutes. And then the doctor wants to talk to Danny's mother about the Barbara's condition. So Danny goes in, his girlfriend is there. She says, don't worry, I'll stay with your mom. Everything's going to be okay. You'll see. Stacey will turn out to be like a really good-hearted girlfriend when it comes to Danny. And that's interesting to kind of see too in the characterization. So in he goes, and this is a really well laid out scene on the next page. So she's there unconscious in the hospital bed, and yeah, we get all horizontal panels, 5 of them, and Danny's just talking to her. I hope you can hear me, he says, because I need you now more than I ever did before. And we've got the beeping of the machines around her, and that just continues. That's all you get on her side, just the machines beeping, no response from her. He's crying there, and you can see the guilt about last night. I tried my best to protect you. It just wasn't good enough. I'm sorry. And that's the thing about Danny, like I was saying at the beginning of the video review. He is a passive character, not especially brave, not especially capable. And his encounter, his bargain, I would do anything to save my sister, that he says just before he is transformed into Ghost Rider, is going to bring out a whole other side of him. And that's much of what is explored in the coming couple of years on the comic. This darker side of him that he encounters, the shadow side of himself. And he says to her, so much is happening that I don't understand. Again, a difference between him and Peter Parker. Peter Parker's a science genius. Peter Parker's clever. He's an introvert, but he's a clever one. He's a thinker. But Danny's not like that. He's just this everyman character. You know, when I was thinking about it, he reminded me a little bit of Harry Potter. I'm not a Harry Potter fan or anything like that, but Harry Potter in the first couple of books of Harry Potter, he's nobody. He's nobody interesting, nobody special. He's just average. It turns out that he has the talent, the magic, right? But there's nothing special about him to that point. And Danny's a little bit like that. I mean, like he's got a great girlfriend. That says something for him, but he's just average. And so what we're going to get in the course of the coming couple of years of comics is he's going to be not at all average. He's going to find this other side of himself. But at the moment, he needs his sister. And I love this final panel on the page where Saltares and Texeira decide just to black everything out. So we get fully concentrated on Barb lying in the hospital bed and Danny there, reduced to silence with his shoulders hunched over. He's hunched over there and everything is blacked out. It's really, really good choice. And then a few hours later, he's out in the night, climbing over the cemetery wall and finding the bike again where he stashed it. And these are a great couple of panels as well. Really, really moody panels. Great spotting of blacks here and lighting on the side of the bike. And he thinks that maybe the bicycle holds some answers for him. And he thinks here, Barb always told me to confront the unknown head on. Well, here goes. So he's starting to get brave for himself. With any luck, he thinks, as he cycles away, the magic or whatever it is that's in this thing will help me heal Barb. And then the scene switches. So now we're into the last act of this issue. Half a mile away on Jamaica Avenue. In Brooklyn again, we've got the Cypress Hill Jokers and Cypress Pools Jokers, and they're here causing trouble on the street, knocking this woman's shopping onto the ground, and then a car pulls up, and this bunch of dangerous-looking guys gets out, and they're, as it turns out, they're sent by the Kingpin. So this guy says to them, don't get scared, kids. I just want to talk to you about the briefcase you lifted last night. So they're not going to cooperate. And he pulls a gun on Ralphie here. And then Ralphie catches a knife in the chest. And who is it? It's the ninjas again. So it's Death Watch's crew. What a great panel there as they're scaling the side of the wall and coming down onto the street. I think this is the elevated train line. Actually, that's where they're coming down from. Yeah, really, really great detail and a great evocation of place as well. Specific places in Brooklyn. That's where Howard Mackie's from. That's where he still lives, as far as I know. And so maybe this was a more personal work for him. You know, he's writing about places he knows. He's writing the speech patterns of the kinds of people he knows and lives with and grew up with. That's intriguing. And for me, this is his best work, this Ghost Rider series. So the guys here pull off their jackets, pull out their guns, and now we're getting a battle between the two outfits, Death Watches and the Kingpins. So they're shooting indiscriminately on the street. Meanwhile, Ralphie here is in trouble with that knife sticking out of his chest. And Danny hears the screams, the gunfire catches his attention, and the gas cap starts glowing again. And he sees it. Something's going on down near the elevated train line. Yeah, so there's good continuity there. That and that. It's the same building, the same structure. Good continuity of place. Great lighting again, switching from the cool blues to the warm yellows and oranges of the glowing hubcap. Danny here hesitating. Is he up for the transformation? If I touch it, I might turn into that thing again, that monster, he thinks. No, I can't, I won't. This moment of hesitation. You can see his hand hovering, shaking, and then he puts it right down on the cap. As his hand makes contact with the glowing gas cap, Dan's body is engulfed by mystical fumes. The fumes ignite into hellfire. Instantaneously, he's transformed into, let's get ready for it. Notice too that the transformation, the melting of the flesh, isn't graphic in this first issue, but they'll get there in upcoming issues. Froosh. So the transformation into the Ghost Rider, Spirit of Vengeance. Another fantastic one-page image. Like, this is the best one in the issue. This is my favorite one. This is one you want as a poster. And, you know, the lads themselves know it, and they've signed the manhole cover here. New York, Saltares, Texeira. Yeah, really, really cool. Really good stuff. And again, just the contrast of the colors, the cool blues and green of the nighttime scene, and the warm, hot yellow and orange of Ghost Rider's Hellfire. So cool. Then we're back at the shootout on the street by the elevated train, and Ghost Rider arrives, knocks into Kingpin's men. Ninjas here using their machine guns. It does some damage to Ghost Rider's costume, but here we get one other thing he can do with those chains, and that is this. So he cracks the chain and the links separate and they transform into almost like shuriken, like throwing stars, and it takes out but doesn't kill, because Ghost Rider's not a killer, as the ninjas, and then it returns to his hand. He says here, "Your kind will quickly learn that I am not easily harmed, child killer," he says. "You will also learn that the same cannot be said of you." So here he is. Children, I mean you no harm. They're hiding behind these bins. I like that, you know. It's kind of like, well, what would you do? You'd have to get some cover, so they're using the trash cans here as cover. And then Ghost Rider isn't the only one with chains. You aren't the only one who can use a chain, biker, says the leader here of Kingpin's goons. Though I appreciate you getting rid of another one of Death Watch's men. So Ghost Rider, he's got superhuman strength. He turns the whole thing to his advantage, yanks the guy over here with the chain into one of Death Watch's men. Whomp. And let's see. So now this guy pulls a machine gun, and it's bigger than a machine gun. It's some kind of super gun, let's call it that. He targets Ghost Rider here, and it looks like Ghost Rider just manages to duck, and the shot ends up taking out the front of the building behind him. We've got the rubble and debris bouncing around here. Great detail like that. Really gives a sense of the continuity of action. Ralphie here isn't doing too good, but he's pretty selfless actually for a guy who knocked into that woman and knocked her shopping onto the ground. He tells Polly that she's got to get away. So, there's some honor among the gang in terms of their members. And now we've got this interesting little bit between the Kingpin's man and Death Watch's, where the ninja proposes a truce. Why not call a truce until we can get the information we both seem to require from the girl? Once we get it, we can then settle between ourselves. But your man here thinks this should distract him long enough to let me get the drop on him, so there isn't going to be any honor among these guys. Polly insists, she tells them that the canisters are hidden in the cemetery in 3 different mausoleums. And she says she doesn't remember where. So this guy says she's not going to be able to give us any more info sitting here. I'll take her to my boss. He's got people who can help her remember things. Like the implication is under torture. And the ninja says, I think, turn the page, not. The truce is over. So he pulls this blade under the guy's throat. Death Watch can extract the information straight from her mind. Kill the kid quickly for me. You will join her momentarily. So they're interrupted though, of course, by the Ghost Rider, who wasn't taken out by that blast. And he uses his chain to knock the 2 of them unconscious. And then once again, he goes up to Paulie, puts his hand out and says, do not be afraid. So we, the readers, are learning about Ghost Rider that he is not, while he might have a monstrous appearance, he is not monstrous himself. And he's very different from the original Ghost Rider, for anyone who can remember that version of the character, whose demonic side was a servant of Mephisto's, Zarathos. So readers who would remember that would be wondering who this Ghost Rider is and what his connection is to the Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider. But anyone who was picking this up for the first time wouldn't know any of that background, would just be learning about this iteration of the Ghost Rider from this issue. Now it looks like on some of these pages as we get to the end of the 44 pages of story that the artwork is a little bit more rushed. A little less time maybe was available for going through all the details. But we get enough information on the pages to know where we are. St. John's Hospital again, the emergency room. Ghost Rider lays down Ralphie here, tells the doctors to give... he's not going to answer any questions. He simply says the boy needs medical attention now. Paulie here, grateful for him saving their lives, and off he walks out of the hospital. He's not going to hang around to talk to anyone. And then, by day's end, the city's in an uproar. The small war that was waged in Brooklyn the night before, over the small war that was waged in Brooklyn the night before. Local newspapers are full of reports of the demonic Ghost Rider in the middle of the death and destruction. So here's Captain Dolan. He believes what he reads in the newspapers, that Ghost Rider is a menace. And again, it's a little analogy to Spider-Man and that story world. And Danny here, shocked that Captain Dolan thinks Ghost Rider was responsible for the killings. And he says here, but the papers say that he helped 2 kids, brought them here. Sorry, actually, it's the other way around. Like, Danny points to the detail in the story, whereas Dolan is willing to believe, or wants to believe, that Ghost Rider is a menace. Nonsense, he was just trying to cover his butt, he says. All he wanted to do was throw us off his scent. And then Danny just wants to see his sister. So off he goes into the room again, sits down by Barb, and he says, when I ride that motorcycle, it feels like I'm transformed into some sort of a monster. I can't believe the things that it does. It's so brutal. And again, remember what I said. Danny as a character starting off is passive, is a little bit of a fraidy cat, and the Ghost Rider, this other side of him as it will turn out to be, is very, very different, is a monster. And here he is crying again. This is also crazy. I don't want it to happen anymore, but I can't bring myself to get rid of that bike. It did save 2 kids' lives today. If I am this powerful Ghost Rider, why can't I save you? So there you go. That's his dilemma. And also interesting too that, you know, Danny isn't motivated by vengeance personally. He's not motivated by vengeance. He doesn't feel like in Greek tragedy, in Shakespearean tragedy, having something awful happen to you or your relatives is a spur to wanting payback, wanting revenge. Danny witnessed his sister being shot by Death Watch's men, and he just isn't motivated for to get personal payback. It's not his orientation. He just wants his sister to get better. And so what's going to happen over the course of the series is you're going to get him getting something from the Ghost Rider, getting some monstrous energy, some backbone maybe, from a certain perspective. He's going to change. It's going to be his hero's journey over the course of the coming years. Last page, back to the villains. Kingpin here. He's determined that the canisters be recovered or somebody's going to pay. Death Watch here has already killed his men who failed him, and he's also insistent on getting the canisters and killing all the witnesses. So that's how things land at the end of this first issue. To be continued. And in my opinion, a pretty much perfect first issue of a superhero type comic. Excellent establishing of the characters and the protagonist. An excellent artistic team from penciler to inker to colorist. Everybody doing excellent work on this 44-page first story. And like I said, no advertisements until we get to the end. And this is just advertising one of these other new titles from the period that didn't survive. There you go. I do hope that you enjoyed this review and commentary on Ghost Rider Volume 3, Number 1. Let me know your thoughts on this comic in the comment section to the video. Did you pick this up way back in 1990? What were your thoughts on it at the time? Let me know. And if you enjoyed my review and commentary, please like the video in YouTube. It really does help the channel. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.